Hey, what's up, you guys? Nick Pell coming to you once again with another book review for you. This week's book is the fourth book in the Song of Ice and Fire series, entitled A Feast for Crows. This book is not exactly the longest book in the series. That would probably be To Dance with Dragons, which is coming next week. But that's mainly because it is not like the other books. It only covers the stories of about half the characters in the series itself. Because, as George R. Martin says at the end of the book, he was going to make it this massive volume, but then he figured out it's going to be too big. So he only included about half the characters, and it mainly deals with King's Landing, so Cersei, Jaime, and then Brienne, Sasha, and Arya. And then some other spots that are newly mentioned in the book. So that's what to expect, and let's begin with characters. As with most of the books in this series, there are going to be spoilers from the previous installments, so know that before you watch this, and you have been warned. First character we have is Cersei Lannister. She is now the Queen Regent. She's basically ruling the kingdom after the death of Joffrey, and because Tommen is basically a child of 8, so he can't really do much. And she begins the novel basically reacting to her father's death, Tyrion Lannister's escape from prison, and then her son Joffrey's assassination. So, along with that stuff, she also has to deal with Jaime being back and him being kind of changed as a result of his journey with Brienne. So, that's what you can expect with Cersei. Our next character is Jaime Lannister, the Kingslayer. He is currently the Lord Commander of the Kingsguard, and after the events of A Storm of Swords, Jaime Lannister has become crippled. He has lost his right hand, his sword hand, and he has to deal with that. And along with that, he has to deal with his role in Tyrion's escape, and therefore his role in his father Tywin's death. And then departing from King's Landing, because those are the only two characters that I really talked about that deal with King's Landing, we go to Aeron Damphair, and he has involvement in the Iron Island, so basically the Greyjoys. His first chapter is entitled The Prophet, and he's basically the main religious person of the drowned god. His main influences in the basically first half of the novel, after King Balon Greyjoy has been killed or he fell to his death. And it's basically in him trying to guide people towards the rightful choice for a new king. And along with him, we also have Asha Greyjoy, who we saw in the second novel, I believe. She is the sister of Theon, and she is also the daughter of Balon. So she feels that it is her rightful place to be the next in line for the throne, since Theon was basically a failure and is now taken captive, and her father is dead. We get to see her experiences in trying to win the throne from those who try to take it from her. And then moving to another new spot, we have Dorne. And along with Dorne, we also have Ariel Hota. That's it. And he is basically the captain of the guard in Dorne, and he guards Prince Doran. And you see Dorne through his eyes for about the first half of the novel, and then you see him through other people's eyes for the rest of the novel, such as Arianne Martell, who is the second main person that we have to deal with in Dorne. She really wants revenge on King's Landing after the events of Storm of Swords, in which Prince Oberyn tries to defend Tyrion Lannister in his trial by combat, in which he is killed by the mountain that rides. So if you've read the book, you know this, and that's her main reason for being in the story, is to try to inspire rebellion. So it's kind of interesting to see her narrative. And now our last four characters are some very familiar ones. We got Sansa Stark, and she is being currently held at the Vale by Lord Pita, or Littlefinger. And she has to take a new name so that King's Landing cannot find her. She has to do a whole new identity. And she starts out the novel basically having to keep the secret that Peter basically killed her aunt. And you get to see her kind of evolve and almost transform into this character. Some of the chapters later on in the book actually state her fake name as the chapter heading. So she really does almost become this character, but she's still reclaims her part of Sansa, which makes her Sansa. We also have Arya Stark. After leaving the Hound to basically die at the Trident, she has made her way to Braavos, and this is where she's kind of searching for. She's trying to find Jaqen, who's the guy who helped her become the ghost in Harrenhal, and she ends up joining up with his order. She doesn't actually find him, as far as we know, but she does start to become enveloped in his order, and she kind of goes into the same transformation as Sansa does, in which she tries to become a new person, or in this case lose her identity. So it's kind of interesting to see Arya's version of things too. We also have Brienne, who first showed up in Clash of Kings, and she, after escorting Jaime Lannister to King's Landing safely, Jaime has sent her on a quest to find Sansa and protect her, and he gives her her sword Oathkeeper, in which she is very attached to, and you kind of see her kind of struggle with her feelings for Jaime, because it's kind of obvious, at least to me, I think, that they form something of a relationship. Whether or not one of them wants to voice it or not is kind of going to be decided in future novels. I don't know if it happens in Dance with Dragons or what, but you see her doing her best to try to fulfill her oath to Jaime. And her last chapter is quite an interesting one, because it dwells on some of the ending events in Storm of Swords, which aren't really mentioned at all in the rest of the book. And last but not least, we have Samwell Tarly. After basically tricking the Night's Watch into making Jon Snow their new Lord Commander, Jon has sent him to the Citadel to become a maester, basically. And he sends him with Gilly and her son, and Maester Aemon, who is also Aemon Targaryen, for those of you who didn't pick that up somehow. The majority of Sam's journey is spent on a boat until he gets to a few towns in which certain events happen. He even interacts with Arya at some point, which is it's actually kind of cool to see that, because they don't mention Arya by name, but they just kind of, you know that it's her. So, I don't know, I found that kind of funny. So yeah, that is the characters. There are obviously more and more important characters too, but those are the ones that have a voice and the ones that I found to be of some importance. So, on to the plot. And with the plot, you should know that the War of the Five Kings is basically done. The last two people going for the throne right now are Stannis Baratheon and, Queen Cersei, basically. The Greyjoys start to have some influence towards about the middle, and they start to do stuff that influences the war, but for the most part the war is done and the Lancers have all but won. However, peace in this time is not a for sure thing. After Jaime has returned to King's Landing, he is more uncertain about his sister after a warning that Tyrion gave him about her at the end of Storm of Swords. And that causes their otherwise awesome fellowship, I guess you could call it, to have some problems, and they're more at each other's throats than ever in this book, in not a good way. And like I said, Brienne is on a quest to try to find Sansa, who is currently at the Vale under the protection of Lord Peter. Arya is at Braavos trying to locate Jaqen and become a good member of his order, and Samwell is on a quest from Jon to go to the Citadel and become a maester for the Night's Watch. In the Iron Islands, new events unfold, which will probably shape events in Dance with Dragons, and The Winds of Winter, which I just figured out is the 6th book in the series, and probably won't come up for like 10 years or something like that. In Dorne, like I said, rebellion is happening, or attempting to happen. The people are crying out for blood and revenge. So you get to see that happen in a new spot, which has been mentioned in previous novels but not really dealt with. Keep in mind, if I haven't stressed it already, this is not the same book as Storm of Swords was. It's not as action-packed or exciting. It's kind of more events happening in, I guess you could say, peaceful situations than on the battlefield. I felt that the book itself was kind of the end resolution of the first 3 books, and then kind of building up to something big that might happen in Dance with Dragons or The Winds of Winter. So it's kind of a transitionary book is what I felt it was for the most part. Brienne is basically the only character that I remember that has any real fighting scenes, and hers are probably the most entertaining to read about because this is a character that we didn't really know that well at first, and now we do. Also, without Jon and Daenerys and Tyrion and Davos and Melisandre and Stannis and all them, the book did seem kind of empty, but that's what George R. R. Martin was ending up going for. That's what he ended up going for when he decided to do Feast for Crows like this. So it works for what he was going for. I just didn't like that. It didn't really feel like the past novels itself. Like I said, it was more of a transitionary novel, so that's what you should expect it to be. It's only 684 pages, at least in the version that I have. So it's about 2/3 of what Storm of Swords was and what Dance with Dragons will be. So keep that in mind. And we move on to themes. 4 themes as usual in this novel. First off, we have loyalty, and this mainly goes with every character. It's in terms of, are they going to be loyal to the people who they have sworn fealty to. Cersei is one person who really has to deal with this. She is seeing enemies on all sides now because she doesn't think she can trust anyone, and she's trying to keep the throne for herself and stop Marjorie and anyone else who's trying to get their hands on it. So in terms of loyalty, she's the one who deals with this the most, I think. Also Brienne in her oath to Catelyn. She basically is trying to save Sansa, and she has also got an oath to Jaime, which coincides with this. Her loyalty is tested as well, at least towards the end of the novel it is. Justice is another one as usual. You got the King's justice and what is really justice, and this can be perceived through multiple characters and in different viewpoints. You also have love. This would mainly go under Brienne, but also with Jaime and Cersei. The love that you kind of saw between these two characters in the past 3 novels isn't really there anymore because they are at each other's throats because Jaime is a new person and he doesn't want to be involved in his sister's schemes. And then also right versus wrong as usual. What's the right thing to do? What's the wrong thing to do? Who's good? Who's evil? And yada yada. And that is the themes, and we move on to enjoyment. And although I did not really enjoy the book as much as I was hoping I would, it wasn't a bad book. Let me stress that enough. It's a good book, alright? Like I said, it's a transition novel. That's what I felt it was, and it does it well. Just coming from Storm of Swords and the epic endings that those had, it's kind of hard to go into this one and have not a lot happen that was significant in my eyes. So just keep that in mind when you're going to read it. So, and like I said, some characters who were mentioned in past novels but not really given a huge role in them are now given roles in them. Yeah, they become intertwined with some other characters. Daenerys is one who is going to have a major influence, as was foreshadowed multiple times in this book. So that is one thing that's cool. Multiple characters, old and new, reference her, and I'm pretty sure she will have a major impact in the next 3 novels. And yeah, that's about it. The next book, or the last book of the 5 that are currently out, will be coming out next week. And then after that will be the Hunger Games trilogy. So, yeah, I'd recommend this book if you like the show, if you've read the past 3, and want to get to the 5th. So, yeah, like, favorite, comment, and subscribe if you so choose. I would love it. Please do not leave spoilers of this book or any of the previous ones in the comment section down below. If you want to discuss the book or the series itself, send me a message or get in contact with me in some way, shape, or form, and I would love to do that. By the time this goes out, I should be well done with Dance with Dragons and probably done with the Hunger Games trilogy as well. So, yeah, that's about it. As always, my name is Nick Pell, and once again, keep on reading.